Welcome back, everybody, to the exhibit hall. I'm your co-host, Dr. Damon Durker. I'm Director of Optometric Services at Eye Surgeons of Indiana in Indianapolis. We are having a fantastic time here in San Diego with the Eyes On team. It has been a tremendous show. They are going crazy over here. Over 6,000 people have attended this event. So many people getting CE, CME credit. We've had, thousands and thousands of booth check-ins, a lot of people taking advantage of the show specials. It has just been a lot of fun. So really the goal for this whole program is innovation and bringing things back that you learn and being able to implement that into your practice. And there's so much that goes into developing a show like this. I just really want to thank everybody that's been involved. It has been quite the endeavor. Our supporters at the industry level, make sure that you're checking out the booths. They've done so much to make this possible. I do want to highlight our next session, which is sponsored by Dompe. I'm actually going to have the opportunity to, I actually a couple weeks ago, got to interview some members of the Dompe senior leadership team. You're going to see highlights of that. We're going to hear from some higher ups at Dompe about their culture, innovation, all of the things that are going on to be able to bring novel solutions to rare conditions right now. Certainly the focus will be on OXERVATE for neurotrophic keratitis. We'll go into a little bit of an interview that I did a week or two ago, and then I'll have an interview with Jason Bay, who is with their strategic marketing team to be able to help engage with optometry and ophthalmology practices to bring these solutions to your practice. So this has been a fantastic event. Dompe program here is going to start very shortly. What I'd like to make sure that you remember is going to the conference bag. We still have some work to do on the Charity Foundation Fighting Blindness. We're over $1,000 now, but literally all you have to do to contribute to this, to the cause, is go to your conference bag and click on the Foundation Fighting Blindness tag there. That's going to contribute $1 of our money to FFB to be able to support patients with AMD, RP research. They've done so much. So please do that now. At the conclusion of the event tomorrow, you will have to take the post test to get your credits. And this is going to be a pretty seamless event. You will have as many opportunities as you need to be able to take that post test, but that has to be done to get either COPE credit or CME credit. With that, I'd like to introduce our next session, Innovation in Dompe. Everything that they're doing at Dompe, focusing on their culture, innovation, and be able to bring new solutions for rare conditions to the ophthalmic community. Thank you.
I'm excited to introduce our panel from Dompe Leadership today. We're going to have a great conversation. We've got Ashley Klein, who is head of Global Biotech Business Unit. We're going to be focusing on Dompe culture and its approach to innovation. I'd like to welcome Brian Baum, who is Senior Vice President of Marketing, Market Access, and Customer Operations. Access is such a big issue in eye care. We're going to dive into that a little bit. And then finally, Georgia Posadas, who is Senior Vice President, Global Medical Affairs. We're going to talk about all of the things that are in Dompe's pipeline. So welcome, panelists. Thank you so much. Thank you for supporting Eyes On 2022 and all the things that you're doing in the ophthalmic community. What I'd like to start with maybe is with Ashley. As the Global Biotech Business Unit head, what does that mean exactly?
Well, first of all, Dr. Durker, thank you so much for having us here on this panel and for putting together this exceptional conference. We're super excited to be part of it and to be supporting education in eye care. So at Dompe, we like to think of ourselves as being at the intersection of life sciences and technology. So what most of this audience knows us for is OXERVATE, which is the first FDA-approved treatment for neurotrophic keratitis. What people might know less about us is that we're originally an Italian-based company. So we're new kid on the block a little bit in the United States, but we're more than 130 years old. We have a rich pipeline of ophthalmology and non-ophthalmology pipeline products, and we manufacture OXERVATE ourselves at a plant right outside Rome in Italy.
Well, that's interesting because I first learned of Dompe in 2018, and I assumed it was two guys in a molecule, and it's just a small startup company, but it's really been around for over 100 years. And over that time, you've really built a unique culture in this space in optometry, ophthalmology, and beyond. What are some of the things that are really important to you, Ashley, when you think about culture at Dompe?
It's so funny that you say that about being a startup. We love to think of ourselves as a startup, even though we are a company with such a rich legacy. So what we like to say internally is we start from a vantage point of tackling a challenge always with fresh eyes. So of course, there's a place for pattern recognition and for learning from your successes and failures along the way. But the team at Dompe seems to be most energized when we're taking a page from what has been done before and thinking about what we can do better, how we can improve, always through the lens of how we can serve patients, physicians, and the eye care community in an innovative way that's fresh and meets their needs.
But with the topic of the event here being Eyes on 2022, we've talked about what's happened in the past. What are some of the things that you're excited about in 2022 and beyond for Dompe?
The Dompe culture is what makes us legendary, and it's how we became who we are, and I think it's how we plan to continue to evolve and grow. So when we think about our future, what we need to do is maintain this culture that we have of creative collaboration while our team and hopefully the number of drugs that we have to offer are growing. So Dompe is a place where people can come and unlock their potential. And that's because of the leadership team that we have. It's because of the extremely diverse set of talent that we've been able to recruit and then also retain. And so as we look to the future, we think a lot about how we can continue to develop people, offer meaningful professional advancement, and also importantly, grow our pipeline of diverse candidates.
Let's pivot now to talk about access. We talked about a couple of patients that I started on OXERVATE in the midst of a shutdown in the United States for 8-9 weeks. We've got Brian to talk about his role on the Dompe team. Tell us a little bit about your day-to-day, Brian, in working with market access.
Yeah, thank you. One of the key responsibilities I have at Dompe is leading the market access team. And really the goal of our team is to look for opportunities to, hopefully reduce barriers and do what we can to make sure patients get the, treatment they deserve. And also that they get it in the most, efficient and effective way as well. So our team is a team of about 12 individuals. And really what we've tried to do over the last, almost 3 years is continuing, and Ashley mentioned it, walk alongside our customers and the patients to learn.
So let's walk through a scenario that I would see in my clinic. And I'm using OXERVATE with great success in all stages of NK, mild, moderate, severe. I would tend to say more of my cases have been in that stage 1 mild because we know this is progressive disease and we want to treat root cause as quickly as we can. So let's say I make a decision that this patient has NK, that they are going to likely benefit from OXERVATE. What happens from that point going forward to successfully get that patient the medication in a timely fashion?
Yeah, and probably, for a lot of folks here, they've maybe not heard of it, or some of you had, we have what's called Dompé Connect. And so Dompé Connect is there to help really shepherd, yourself and the patient through the process. And to get that started, you would first submit an enrollment form that serves also as the prescription for that patient. And that enrollment form goes to Dompé Connect, who then can start to partner with you and potentially the patient as well to make sure that the right information is being conveyed, to the office of what steps need to happen next. So that's where we like to keep it as simple as possible. That is sort of your one initial point of contact, that Dompé Connect, and that enrollment form will help you get that process started.
So we know that OXERVATE is a novel therapy, and a lot of times insurance companies don't always cover novel therapies. Is OXERVATE something that's going to be covered by insurance?
You know, what we see is most commercial insurances and Medicare and Medicaid do cover OXERVATE. There are situations where, you know, there might be, you know, some appeals needed for OXERVATE. And again, that's where Dompé Connect to Care can step in to help, you know, answer those questions. But what we see for a majority of insurance companies and patients, the process is fairly straightforward in terms of, you know, getting that enrollment form in, getting the prescription written, to getting, you know, treatment to the patient. So for the majority of them, but it is, I think we all know here today that there are those situations that come up that need some more effort. And again, that's where Dompé Connect to Care and our market access team at Dompe can help.
So I have a patient who has risk factors for NK. I've made a clinical diagnosis. I've confirmed that they have decreased or absent corneal sensitivity, and I've made the decision to prescribe OXERVATE and get them enrolled in Dompé Connect to Care. What is the average turnaround time from that point for my patient to get their medication?
That's a great question, and you know, it's funny. It's a question that's always asked internally as well from our team. What's the average time? I mean, I probably won't use an average, but I'll say, you know, we've seen patients get their treatment, you know, in less than 2 weeks. And what we're seeing now is the majority of patients are getting, you know, OXERVATE within 30 days. So again, it's hard to say what that average time is, but, you know, one of the things we talk about here is, you know, looking at how many patients in that two week or 30-day time period takes. And what we see is what probably the biggest barriers to turnaround time is just getting some of that paperwork back. So in terms of questions around prior authorization information that's needed to fill out the prior authorization form, or there could be follow-up questions from the insurance companies, or if there's an appeal, those are really the things that take up the most time, is getting that paperwork back to the insurance company on it. But if that's done in a timely manner, we can see most patients within 30 days, and probably a good portion within up to 2 weeks can receive OXERVATE.
So Dompé is working with patient, working with the insurance company, with the doctor. Is there any concerns about safeguarding patient information during that process?
So in terms of managing and safeguarding patient information, you know, we do it in accordance with all the applicable laws, and make sure that we have the system set up to protect that information, because we know how important that is to patients, physicians, and also us here at Dompe, that we treat that with all applicable laws.
So OXERVATE approved for NK, approved for all stages of NK, talked about Medicare, Medicaid, commercial insurance, but what happens if a patient is flat out denied coverage, or maybe they don't have insurance? Is there something that can still be done to get that patient on OXERVATE?
Yeah, so that's where Dompé Connect to Care can come in to really help. So they can help partner with the practice, and then also partner with the patient's insurance to find out what information is needed to help complete that appeal. So that's, you know, again, we keep going back to the one-stop shop with Dompé Connect to Care, but they can actually make sure that you get the right information to fill out that appeal form.
Thanks for everything, Brian, that Dompé is doing and your leadership in this area.
And the last thing I'd say, thank you to you and your colleagues for also giving us feedback. I think one of the things that we take a lot of pride in at Dompe is listening and learning, because we don't have all the answers. And I think that's something we've learned over the last few years. And I think we'll continue to learn, is just how to listen and make sure that we're walking alongside our patients and our physician partners and practices in a way that helps patients. So thank you.
No, it's great to see a company where you solicit that feedback, but then you actually see things that happen as a result of that feedback. So thank you for that.
Great.
Georgia, we've kind of left you out here a little bit, and I know that you've got a lot of things going on in Dompe in both optometry, ophthalmology, and beyond, but tell us what's happening in the world of Dompe research, and maybe kind of how Dompe approaches research differently than some companies.
Yes, thank you so much for the question. I think this is a really, really exciting part of Dompe's past, but also our future. And really, I think what people don't know about research and development at Dompe is we've been building on more than a century of scientific research and development expertise that have really been focused on medical innovations in areas that there really truly is high unmet medical need. And we've been recently and in the past taking the steps towards really coming up with new options for patients within those sectors. So we've been very focused on ophthalmics, and that's really where our dedication is at the moment. But as you mentioned, we have really been expanding ourselves beyond ophthalmics into type 1 diabetes, as well as pulmonary diseases, cancer-related fatigue, and really have built ourselves up into two platforms. One, as we call it, a neurotrophins platform, and now our second one that we call a natosis platform. But I think a lot of these discoveries that we think about and the innovation that Dompe really puts forward is really disruptive. I think we think about things differently. We really have built and nurtured a culture where operating based on what the patients need and being able to come up with innovations that really support high unmet medical need is something that we've really charged forward with and have become very comfortable with jumping in where we see needs, COVID being the perfect example. And I think for us, overall, we really believe in taking research and development to a new level. And I wouldn't say necessarily it has to be completely different from what other companies do, but paving a path really that is patient-centric and is amplified by really looking at collaborative innovation pathways, whether that's, that we're doing it with institutions across the world, but also focusing on discoveries that we have built in-house through our organic platforms. So overall, I think innovation is something it's in our DNA, it's in the culture that we've built, but it's also something that's really going to continue to project us forward as we build out in ophthalmics specifically with new clinical trials that we have ongoing with over 20 plus clinical trials at this particular point. And many more to come, especially within the eye care space.
So within that eye care space, obviously you've got the neurotrophic that you're going to continue to do research and maybe be able to expand indications for something like OXERVATE or have other approaches to this disease. What other, we talked about, you mentioned autoimmune disease, diabetes, inflammation. What are some specific eye conditions that we may have some novel solutions for from Dompe in the not too distant future?
Yeah, it's a great question and probably the one I'm most excited to answer. So if we think about OXERVATE and its specific indication today in neurotrophic keratitis, we've really been thinking about this as a larger platform. So if we think about the platform that we've developed of neurotrophins, nerve growth factor, which is the active ingredient in OXERVATE, plays a big role in that. So when we think about additional applications for nerve growth factor, what you can see available on clinicaltrials.gov is that we've recently completed a phase 2 clinical trial in dry eye disease utilizing the same molecule, which is recombinant human nerve growth factor. And we're well on our way to starting phase 3 clinical trials with the hopes to be able to publish some of that data soon and move our way into where there's a higher unmet need within the dry eye space.
We have nerve growth factor for NK and maybe some other things down the road. But what is the process when you're looking at all of the different molecules out there? How do you figure out which ones may be applicable to eye conditions or autoimmune disease, et cetera? What is that process at Dompe?
That is a great question. And I guess it's a lot more complex when I actually start thinking about how I would answer this question. But I think the sky is the limit here. I think we really try to think about things innovatively. But more importantly, I think all of the panelists mentioned this, is we really try to listen. And we try to listen to what the physician community is telling us there are needs in versus doing it the other way around, which is trying to develop the need that we think exists. We really listen to the community and to the patients and physicians to let us know where there could be advancements in the standard of care or really new innovative options for maybe therapies that don't have any treatment options.
No, it's been great working with Dompe, and I'm excited about things to come. Thank you again. We've had a great panel discussion, and enjoy the rest of Eyes On 2022.
I really enjoyed that conversation with the Dompe team that I had last week. we're going to meet another member of that team, Jason Bay. Jason is Senior Vice President of Customer Engagement at Dompe. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And I'm glad you had an opportunity to spend a little time with my esteemed colleagues, being Ashley, Brian, and Georgia.
No, I really enjoyed it. I think it must be a lot of fun working at Dompe. And as I've gotten to know the Dompe team over the last year and a half or two, it's been a pleasure. So tell me a little bit about your role at Dompe. What is it, your day-to-day life look like? And what is customer engagement role? What does that mean to optometrists and ophthalmologists in our audience today?
Thanks for asking. I have the privilege of sitting over sales, our field operations team, as well as field marketing and training. And, you know, when you think about field marketing and sales, those are two teams that interface with customers each and every day. So my job is really to help support them, remove any barriers that I can, be a support, you know, help reinforce the right resources and where we might need to further invest, and then put the rest in their hands. We've hired such a wonderfully talented and diverse group of individuals, and I just have complete confidence in what they do each and every day. And then on the training end, that's more of thinking internally and how we can continue to develop our folks so they can continue to be of value to our customers, but also where they can grow both personally and professionally.
Do you feel that your position is unique in the ophthalmic space, or are there other companies doing similar things?
I don't know if it's unique. You know, I think maybe our approach is more unique than me or my role in particular. You've heard a little bit from my colleagues around what we've accomplished, but I think it probably resonated more around our culture and not just what we've done, but more of how we've done it. And I think, you know, my focus really as a leader is working with the team on continuing to think about how we can best engage with our customers, how we can best walk alongside them. We've just gone through a pandemic. You know, each and every day was a little bit different with challenges, but really making sure that we're there, stopping and listening, seeking to understand, so we can understand what's on their plate and what they're facing every day and how we can be a better resource to their patients.
And I can appreciate that, certainly. And I feel that in my working with Dompe and OXERVATE, that the constructive criticism I've had about the process and access in the team, there's been such an evolution that happened pretty quickly in the midst of the pandemic. I just want to congratulate you and your team for not only saying that you're going to engage with the customer, but actually taking action based on what that conversation looks like. So clearly culture is a big deal in terms of how it works with optometry and ophthalmology relationships. And we've heard from your colleagues about how that is within Dompe itself, your team. With access, do you feel like it's going to be easier in the future to access products like OXERVATE? Will that process be streamlined even more? Or is it always going to be similar to what we're experiencing now with a process that maybe takes a couple of weeks for a patient to get a medication into their hands?
You know, it's a great question. It's certainly a journey and it's fairly complex depending on the situation. Every patient's a little bit different, whether it's their background, what type of insurance they have, and every practice is a little bit different. You know, it is our complete goal to ensure that we could make it as efficient and productive as possible. And our goal is obviously always to get the product in the hands of the physician so they can best serve their patient as soon as possible. So I think it's an ongoing journey. You know, I don't think it ever stops, regardless of the product, the disease state, et cetera. But I can certainly say that it's a priority to us, and we do continue to seek feedback from our customers so we can ensure that we're focusing on the right things as we continue on our journey with them now and for years to come.
So with our eyes on 2022 and looking at how you're going to engage and educate our peers in optometry and ophthalmology across the country and really across the world, are you looking at going back to live in-person programs, dinner programs, promotional sessions? Is there going to be a lot of hybrid webinar events or Eyes on 2022 or other things that are going to be strictly virtual? Where do you see Dompe focusing to get the most bang for your buck, more or less, in terms of engagement with your customer base?
That's a very fair question, probably the hardest one to answer. You know, I think we'll continue to go back to our guiding principles, being, you know, walking alongside our customer, understanding where they're at, not trying to get too far ahead with our own ideas, but stepping back and understanding the broader landscape. And I think these last 2 years were the greatest example of that, right? You know, daily, if not by the minute, by the hour, by the day, there were so many things that were unexpected. But we always made sure that our priority was thinking about the patient during those times and how we can ensure they can get the product, regardless of what we're facing as a community, globally, et cetera. So, you know, if I have to step back and reflect and then obviously look forward, our commitment is to the eye care community. I still remember back in 2018, we received our approval, and in August of that year, we started engaging with some of the KOLs and thought leaders in the community. And they were so kind and warm and embraced us with open arms because they knew there was such an unmet medical need as it relates to neurotrophic keratitis. And, you know, that's something we'll always remember, but our commitment is so strong to this community because there's still such a need as we think about those patients who still aren't getting treated, or maybe they're not seeing the impact that they need as it relates to their healthcare.
In terms of specifically OXERVATE, do you feel that this is going to be something that's going to be more used by optometrists or more by ophthalmologists when you look at the market as a whole?
You know, that's a great question. We've learned a lot. You know, it's interesting. When you go into a launch, we were a small and mighty team. You make some assumptions, you try to get as much data as you can to seek to understand. We know there was a designation of neurotrophic keratitis being called rare disease. So it's been an ongoing journey, and we're seeking to understand and learn. And we certainly have realized that more physicians than not have the opportunity to treat these patients. Obviously, there's various stages of diseases. They might reach a different physician at a different point in time in their care or their treatment or their duration of their disease. But there is certainly a broader, I'd say, customer base now as we've learned more, as our customers have taught us more. And I think 2022 is going to be a really exciting year for us. And optometrists have been great. We've learned a lot from them, and many times they're at the forefront of that treatment continuum. And we look forward to that relationship and continuing to educate them and learning from them as we look into 22 and even 2023.
And I think NK is definitely a condition that is really, for most patients, going to be best co-managed, where there's going to be a collaboration between optometry and ophthalmology for some of these cases, especially if you've not treated yourself as an optometrist, as I think working with ophthalmologists or cornea specialists. And as you get more comfortable with NK, I've certainly treated a couple dozen patients myself with OXERVATE over the past year and a half, but it took a little time to get there. I needed some education. I needed to talk with colleagues that had experience. So I think really focusing on that collaboration between optometry and ophthalmology is going to continue to be critical. I definitely like what I've seen so far in what Dompe has done to engage both sides of that equation. As we shift towards innovation in the future, can you comment a little bit about your pipeline and what excites you the most at Dompe?
Wow. I'll probably start with OXERVATE. You know, it's been such a great journey, and what an awesome product. But more specifically, the active ingredient being nerve growth factor, and all the possibilities when you think about the rest of the eye where there's still some unmet medical needs. So that gets me really fired up. I think the entire organization, and we've definitely hired some individuals that are very passionate about eye care. So I see us continuing to double down in that area, continuing to partner with everyone who's listening in today. And we're very fortunate, not only the way you've embraced us, but we're excited to walk along this journey with you and continue to innovate. You know, we are going broader, and you heard a little bit from Georgia as it relates to different platforms we're exploring, and even areas like type 1 diabetes. So that's exciting as we continue to grow and think about the lessons that we've learned, in particular, over the last 3 years. And we think about stepping foot in the US with a new product, a new company, a new vision, and a new strategy. And how do you apply that to other disease areas and continue to partner with, physicians, their practices, as well as patients. So thanks for having us. It's been our pleasure. We're excited to continue to engage with all of you. But most importantly, we're here to listen as well. I think innovation is not just about the manufacturer, but it's about the folks who are out there treating on the front lines, which is all of you, our patients, most importantly. And you see firsthand what some of those needs are and how can we partner together on this journey of continuing to treat patients and help them live a healthier and happier life.
No, that's fantastic. Jason, it's been a pleasure. Thank you again for supporting Eyes on 2022. We do have a quick message from Natalie Dompé about innovation and the history of Dompe. So again, thank you, Jason. It's been a great session.
Thank you. My pleasure.
The world of life sciences evolves through unpredictable discoveries and knowledge. Against this high-pressure backdrop, Dompe Pharmaceuticals has found success through the vision and determination of our team in conducting compelling research and developing impactful innovations. We have helped our chances of success by keeping an organization that is lean and quick to anticipate change. While our research has now developed therapies that are distributed globally, we remain agile and resilient. Those who work at Dompe know that, despite its 130 years of history, we are constantly evolving, a bit like a startup. It is this iterative approach that gave us the courage to build on top of a successful suite of over-the-counter products, and to invest in a research pipeline embracing both biotech and small molecules. 3 years ago, one of these biotech drugs, based on Rita Levi-Montalcini's Nobel Prize discovery, became the first approved treatment for a rare eye disease distributed globally. The FDA awarded it a breakthrough therapy designation, and the Chinese authority included it in its first list of drugs considered essential for the treatment of orphan diseases in China. We have also embraced the growing intersection of biology and computation through our Escalate platform that couples Europe's most powerful supercomputers with artificial intelligence to accelerate drug discovery. Escalate has now become a priority project for the European Commission, allowing us to coordinate 18 international partners. In this stream of experimentation and learning, we have redefined our research areas into platforms separated by the biological mechanisms we investigate. The field of neuronal growth, we're working on neurotrophins. In immunology, on diseases such as juvenile diabetes, and we are active in pain, in new anti-COVID drugs, and have new approaches to drug discovery at large. Our ability to innovate has allowed us to grow internationally, especially in the United States. But we are not tackling this challenge alone. Our innovation is the product of a network of competencies extending well beyond our labs. Knowing how to govern this open innovation network is one of our advantages. As our interdisciplinary partnerships grow, we also increase the serendipity from these relationships and, hopefully, the unexpected and disruptive discoveries that can come from them. Over the next few years, our challenge is to maintain the dedication that has brought us here, while creating the conditions for new innovations to manifest and hopefully improve society as a whole.